Have you ever noticed that the smartest people in the room rarely waste time proving they're the smartest? When they encounter ignorance, arrogance, or irrational behavior, they don't explode. They don't argue endlessly, and they certainly don't allow someone else's lack of understanding to steal their peace. This isn't because they are weak, it's because they understand something most people don't. Every reaction has a cost, and not every battle deserves their energy. True intelligence isn't measured by IQ alone. It's revealed in emotional control, strategic thinking, and the ability to remain calm when surrounded by chaos. In today's video, we'll explore 6 powerful habits that highly intelligent people use when dealing with difficult, irrational, or foolish individuals. These aren't manipulation tactics. They're timeless psychological principles that protect your mind, preserve your dignity, and help you stay focused on what truly matters. Let's begin. Highly intelligent people understand one uncomfortable reality. Not every conversation is a genuine search for truth. Many people assume that if they present enough facts, use flawless logic, or explain themselves clearly, the other person will eventually understand. But experience teaches a different lesson. Some conversations are never about discovering what is true. They are driven by pride, insecurity, ego, or the desperate need to feel superior. In those moments, logic becomes powerless because the other person's goal is not understanding, it's winning. This is why truly intelligent individuals learn to recognize the difference between a discussion and a battle of egos. Before they invest their time or energy, they quietly ask themselves a simple question. Is this person willing to listen, or are they only waiting for their turn to speak? That single question changes everything. If someone is genuinely curious, even disagreement can lead to growth. But if someone has already decided that no evidence will ever change their opinion, continuing the argument only creates frustration. Intelligence is knowing when communication is possible and when it has already become impossible. Most people believe that walking away from an argument looks like weakness. They think silence means surrender, or that leaving the conversation allows the other person to believe they have won. Highly intelligent people see it differently. They understand that not every victory is worth claiming. Sometimes the greatest victory is protecting your peace of mind. They don't measure success by having the last word. They measure it by whether the conversation contributes anything meaningful to their life. Arguing endlessly with someone who refuses to listen is like trying to fill a cup that has been turned upside down. No matter how much truth you pour into it, nothing will stay. Instead of becoming frustrated, intelligent people accept this reality without resentment. They understand that every person grows at their own pace, and no amount of force can create understanding where there is no openness. Wisdom cannot be pushed into a closed mind. Because of this, they become very selective about where they invest their attention. They know that attention is one of the most valuable resources they possess. Every unnecessary argument steals time that could have been spent learning, building meaningful relationships, improving their skills, or simply enjoying life. They refuse to allow someone else's stubbornness to dictate how they spend their day. This doesn't mean they avoid every disagreement. In fact, they often welcome thoughtful discussions because they know that respectful disagreement can sharpen ideas and reveal new perspectives. They appreciate conversations where both people are willing to question their own beliefs, admit mistakes, and learn from one another. Those conversations create growth, but when they recognize that a discussion has turned into nothing more than a contest of pride, they quietly step away. They have no desire to compete in a game where understanding was never the objective. There is also a deep sense of emotional maturity behind this decision. Intelligent people know that every reaction has a cost. Becoming angry, defensive, or obsessed with proving a point only gives another person control over their emotions. The moment someone can dictate your mood through pointless arguments, they begin controlling your peace. Rather than handing over that power, intelligent people remain calm. They understand that emotional self-control is far more valuable than winning an argument. In the end, they remember a truth that many people learn only after years of frustration. You cannot force someone to see what they are unwilling to see. Real wisdom is knowing the difference between a conversation that deserves your voice and one that deserves your silence. By choosing their battles carefully, highly intelligent people preserve their energy, protect their peace, and focus on what truly deserves their attention. The greatest advantage of a highly intelligent person is not simply having more knowledge than others. It is having the ability to remain in control of themselves, especially in situations where emotions are running high. Anyone can stay calm when life is comfortable and people are respectful. The real test of intelligence comes when someone is rude, insulting, irrational, or deliberately trying to provoke a reaction. In those moments, most people respond automatically. They speak before thinking, react before understanding, and allow temporary emotions to dictate permanent decisions. Highly intelligent people choose a different path. Instead of reacting immediately, they create a small but powerful pause between what happens and how they respond. That pause may only last a few seconds, but it changes everything. It gives them time to think instead of simply feeling. They understand that the first emotional impulse is not always the wisest one. Anger demands immediate action, but wisdom asks for patience. Rather than allowing frustration to take control, they observe their emotions with curiosity instead of obedience. When someone insults them or behaves disrespectfully, they don't immediately assume they must defend themselves. Instead, they quietly ask questions that most people never consider. Why is this affecting me? Is this person's opinion truly important? Will responding improve the situation, or will it only create more conflict? These questions shift their focus away from emotion and toward reason. They recognize that not every comment deserves a reply, and not every criticism deserves their attention. Highly intelligent people also understand that emotional reactions often reveal more about the person reacting than the situation itself. Losing control may provide temporary satisfaction, but it usually leaves lasting regret. Harsh words spoken in anger cannot be taken back. Relationships can be damaged in a single emotional moment. Opportunities can disappear because of one impulsive decision. They know that a few seconds of self-control can prevent months or even years of unnecessary consequences. This doesn't mean they suppress every emotion or pretend they never feel hurt. They experience anger, disappointment, and frustration just like everyone else. The difference is that they refuse to let those emotions become their master. Feelings are valuable because they provide information, but they are poor leaders when making important decisions. Intelligent people listen to their emotions without allowing those emotions to take control of their actions. Another reason they remain calm is because they understand that many difficult people are seeking exactly one thing, a reaction. Some individuals thrive on conflict because it gives them attention, a sense of power, or emotional satisfaction. By refusing to react impulsively, highly intelligent people quietly remove the reward that fuels this behavior. Their calmness often ends conflicts before they have a chance to grow. While others become trapped in endless cycles of arguments and emotional drama, they preserve their inner peace by refusing to participate. They also recognize that true confidence never needs to shout. People who are secure in themselves rarely feel the need to prove their intelligence or defend their worth in every disagreement. They understand that their value is not determined by someone else's opinion. Because of this, they don't waste energy trying to convince every critic or silence every negative voice. Their confidence comes from within, not from winning debates or receiving approval. Over time, this emotional discipline becomes one of their greatest strengths. It allows them to make clearer decisions, maintain healthier relationships, and stay focused on their long-term goals instead of being distracted by temporary conflicts. While others are controlled by every insult, disagreement, or moment of frustration, highly intelligent people remain grounded, thoughtful, and composed. They know that the strongest person in any difficult situation is often not the one who speaks the loudest, but the one who has mastered the ability to remain calm when everyone else has lost control. One of the most difficult lessons highly intelligent people learn is that intelligence cannot be forced upon another person. There is a natural desire to help others understand, especially when the answer seems obvious or the evidence is clear. Many people believe that if they simply explain things more carefully, provide more facts, or repeat themselves with greater passion, the other person will eventually change their mind. But experience teaches a different truth. Understanding is not created by the speaker alone. It also depends on the willingness of the listener. Without that willingness, even the clearest explanation falls on closed ears. Highly intelligent people recognize that learning is always a choice. No one can be educated against their will. A person may hear every word, yet refuse to truly listen. They may see undeniable evidence and still reject it because accepting the truth would require admitting they were wrong. For many people, protecting their ego feels more important than discovering reality. In those moments, the obstacle is not a lack of information, it is a resistance to growth. Instead of becoming frustrated, intelligent people accept this limitation. They understand that every individual is on a different stage of personal development. Some are eager to question their beliefs, while others cling tightly to familiar ideas because change feels uncomfortable. Wisdom teaches patience. It recognizes that people often change only when they are personally ready, not when someone else believes they should. Because of this understanding, highly intelligent people become selective about whom they teach. They gladly share knowledge with those who are curious, open-minded, and willing to ask sincere questions. Conversations with such people are energizing because both sides are interested in learning. Even disagreements become valuable as they create opportunities to examine ideas from different perspectives. In these discussions, the goal is not to defeat one another, but to move closer to the truth together. However, they also know when a conversation has stopped being productive. Some individuals argue only to defend their pride or protect beliefs they have emotionally attached themselves to. They reject new ideas before giving them honest consideration. They interrupt instead of listening, dismiss instead of reflecting, and attack instead of understanding. Continuing to explain under these circumstances rarely changes anything. It simply drains time, patience, and emotional energy. Highly intelligent people do not interpret this as a personal failure. They understand that another person's unwillingness to learn is not something they can control. Their responsibility is to communicate clearly and honestly, not to guarantee that others will accept what they hear. This realization frees them from the exhausting need to convince everyone they meet. They also understand that humility is an essential part of learning. A truly wise person remains open to the possibility that they, too, could be mistaken. They are willing to revise their opinions when presented with better evidence. This willingness to change is one of the clearest signs of genuine intelligence. Ironically, those who believe they already know everything often stop growing, while those who admit there is always more to learn continue expanding their understanding throughout life. In the end, highly intelligent people focus their efforts where they can make the greatest difference. They invest their knowledge in conversations that encourage growth rather than conflict. They inspire those who seek wisdom instead of chasing those who reject it. By accepting that understanding cannot be forced, they preserve their peace, use their energy wisely, and allow truth to speak most powerfully to those who are genuinely ready to hear it. Highly intelligent people understand that mental energy is one of the most valuable resources they possess. Unlike time, which passes whether we use it wisely or not, mental energy determines the quality of every decision, relationship, and achievement in life. They know that every unnecessary worry, pointless argument, and negative interaction consumes a portion of that limited resource. Because of this, they become extremely careful about where they direct their attention. They refuse to allow difficult or irrational people to occupy more space in their minds than they deserve. Most people underestimate the power of attention. A single unpleasant conversation can linger in the mind for hours or even days. They replay every word, imagine better responses, and create endless scenarios that will never happen. While their body has left the situation, their mind remains trapped inside it. Highly intelligent people recognize this habit as a silent thief. Every minute spent obsessing over someone else's behavior is a minute stolen from personal growth, meaningful work, and inner peace. Instead of repeatedly revisiting negative experiences, they consciously shift their focus toward things they can actually control. They understand that they cannot change another person's attitude, but they can choose how much influence that person has over their thoughts. This simple shift in perspective is incredibly powerful. Rather than asking, why did they act that way? They ask, what deserves my attention right now? That question redirects their energy toward actions that improve their own lives instead of feeding frustration. They also understand that attention works much like a spotlight. Whatever receives consistent attention grows stronger in the mind. If they constantly focus on negativity, resentment begins to shape their outlook. If they focus on learning, meaningful relationships, creativity, and purpose, those areas naturally become stronger. This is why they intentionally fill their minds with ideas, books, skills, and experiences that contribute to their long-term growth instead of dwelling on temporary conflicts. Highly intelligent people also recognize that not every problem requires their personal involvement. Some conflicts continue simply because people keep feeding them with attention. They refuse to become emotionally invested in every disagreement, rumor, criticism, or unnecessary drama. They understand that peace is not achieved by eliminating every difficult person from life, but by refusing to give those people unlimited access to their thoughts and emotions. Another important habit they develop is creating mental boundaries. Just as healthy relationships require physical and emotional boundaries, a healthy mind requires psychological boundaries as well. They know when to stop thinking about work after the day has ended. They know when to walk away from conversations that lead nowhere. They know when to disconnect from negativity before it begins affecting their mood. These boundaries are not acts of avoidance, they are deliberate choices to protect clarity, focus, and emotional balance. They also remember that every goal demands concentration. Whether building a career, strengthening relationships, improving health, or developing new skills, success requires consistent attention. Allowing foolish behavior to dominate their thoughts only distracts them from what truly matters. They refuse to sacrifice meaningful progress simply because someone else chooses to be negative or unreasonable. Their future is too valuable to be controlled by temporary frustrations. In the end, highly intelligent people realize that protecting their mental energy is not selfish, it is essential. They understand that a peaceful mind makes better decisions, stronger relationships, and a more fulfilling life possible. Rather than allowing every difficult encounter to drain them, they choose to invest their attention where it creates growth, purpose, and lasting happiness. By guarding their mental energy with intention, they preserve the one resource that shapes every aspect of their lives, the quality of their own mind. Highly intelligent people understand that not every difficult person needs to be confronted, corrected, or defeated. One of the greatest signs of wisdom is recognizing when distance is more powerful than conflict. Many people believe they must respond to every insult, challenge every unfair comment, or remain connected to individuals who repeatedly disturb their peace. They assume that walking away means giving up. In reality, highly intelligent people know that choosing distance is often the strongest and most strategic decision they can make. They pay close attention to patterns rather than isolated incidents. Everyone has bad days, makes mistakes, or says things they later regret. Intelligent people understand this and are willing to forgive occasional flaws. However, when someone consistently lies, manipulates, creates unnecessary drama, refuses to take responsibility, or repeatedly disrespects others, they recognize that these are no longer accidents. They are patterns of behavior. Patterns reveal character far more accurately than promises or apologies. Instead of trying to change someone who has shown no desire to change, highly intelligent people focus on changing their own level of access. They understand a simple but powerful truth. While they cannot control another person's actions, they can control how much influence that person has over their life. This realization gives them freedom. Rather than wasting months or years hoping someone will become different, they quietly adjust their boundaries and protect their peace. Setting boundaries does not mean becoming cold, cruel, or unforgiving. It simply means understanding that kindness should never require constant self-sacrifice. Intelligent people know that compassion and self-respect can exist together. They can wish someone well while also deciding that person no longer deserves unlimited access to their time, attention, or emotional energy. Distance is not always an act of rejection. Often it is an act of self-preservation. They also understand that constant exposure to negativity gradually shapes the mind. Spending too much time around people who complain endlessly, criticize everyone, manipulate situations, or create conflict can slowly influence even the strongest personalities. Attitudes are contagious. Emotions spread through conversations, environments, and relationships. This is why highly intelligent people become intentional about the company they keep. They choose to spend more time with individuals who encourage growth, honesty, responsibility, and mutual respect rather than those who thrive on chaos. Another reason they choose strategic distance is because they know that some conflicts have no satisfying resolution. Certain people are committed to misunderstanding others, twisting words, or creating arguments where none exist. Engaging with such individuals often leads to endless cycles of frustration. Intelligent people recognize when a conversation has become unproductive and refuse to remain trapped in it. They understand that peace is rarely found by winning every argument. More often, it is found by refusing to participate in battles that serve no meaningful purpose. This approach requires confidence. It takes inner strength to walk away from situations where others expect a reaction. Many people mistake silence for weakness because they believe strength is always loud and confrontational. Highly intelligent people know the opposite can be true. The strongest response is often the one that protects long-term well-being instead of satisfying a temporary emotional impulse. They do not need to prove their worth by engaging in every conflict that comes their way. In the end, highly intelligent people realize that life is too short to spend it surrounded by unnecessary negativity. Every relationship either adds value to their life or drains it. By choosing strategic distance instead of constant conflict, they protect their emotional balance, preserve their mental clarity, and create space for healthier, more meaningful connections. They understand that sometimes the wisest move is not changing the people around them, but changing who they allow to walk beside them. Perhaps the greatest difference between genuine intelligence and simple intellectual ability is humility. Highly intelligent people do not measure their worth by how much they know or by how often they prove others wrong. Instead, they understand that learning is a lifelong process and that every experience, whether pleasant or difficult, contains an opportunity to grow. While many people focus on judging the mistakes of others, intelligent individuals spend more time examining themselves. They know that real progress begins with self-awareness rather than criticism. When they encounter someone who behaves irrationally, rudely, or foolishly, their first instinct is not to feel superior. Instead of asking, "Oh, why are people like this?" they often ask themselves, "What can I learn from this situation?" This simple shift in perspective changes everything. Every difficult interaction becomes more than an inconvenience. It becomes a lesson in patience, communication, emotional control, or human nature. They understand that even unpleasant experiences can become valuable teachers if approached with the right mindset. Highly intelligent people also recognize that arrogance is one of the greatest obstacles to personal growth. The moment someone believes they already know everything, they stop being open to new ideas. Knowledge becomes stagnant, and curiosity slowly disappears. Intelligent people guard themselves against this trap by remaining intellectually humble. They understand that no matter how much they have learned, there is always another perspective to consider, another skill to develop, or another lesson waiting to be discovered. This humility allows them to admit mistakes without feeling ashamed. They do not see being wrong as a personal failure. Instead, they view it as part of the learning process. Every mistake reveals information that success often hides. Rather than defending poor decisions out of pride, they willingly adjust their thinking when better evidence appears. This flexibility is one of the strongest signs of true intelligence. Their goal is not to protect their ego, but to move closer to the truth, even if it requires changing long-held beliefs. Another reason they focus on becoming better rather than feeling superior is because they understand that comparison is a distraction. Constantly measuring themselves against others creates either pride or insecurity, neither of which leads to lasting fulfillment. Instead, they compare themselves to the person they were yesterday. They ask whether they have become more patient, wiser, more disciplined, or more compassionate than before. Their competition is not with other people, but with their own potential. They also understand that every person they meet, regardless of intelligence or background, has something to teach them. Sometimes the lesson comes from someone's wisdom. Other times, it comes from observing mistakes they choose not to repeat. Even negative experiences provide valuable insight into human behavior, decision-making, and emotional resilience. Because of this, they remain curious instead of judgmental. They know that life offers lessons through every encounter, provided they are willing to pay attention. Highly intelligent people never allow success to make them complacent. They continue reading, asking questions, developing new skills, and challenging their own assumptions. They understand that growth does not happen automatically with age or experience. It requires deliberate effort and a willingness to remain a student throughout life. This constant desire to improve keeps their minds sharp and their perspectives fresh, regardless of how much they have already accomplished. In the end, they realize that true intelligence is not about collecting knowledge or impressing others with clever words. It is about becoming a better version of themselves each day. They know they cannot control the actions, opinions, or attitudes of other people, but they can always control their own character. By choosing growth over pride, wisdom over ego, and self-improvement over superiority, they continue evolving long after others have stopped learning. And that commitment to lifelong growth is what truly sets highly intelligent people apart.